Welcome to the hallway. What do you want to talk about?
So, I mean, you just met with these Freedom Caucus members.
No, the Freedom Caucus members were still meeting with a number, but some of the challenge is not the Freedom Caucus. It's members who, a few members who aren't actually in the Freedom Caucus, and I'm not quite sure what they're concerned about. But what we're going to do is we're going to come back on Monday, work through it, and be back working for the American public.
But what are they asking for you specifically? And
This is the difficulty. Some of these members, they don't know what to ask for. There's a numerous different things they're frustrated about. So we'll listen to them, we'll solve it. It's just like every time we go through here, we got a small majority. There's a little chaos going on, but the focus I always keep is right in front of the windshield of the American public. And we're going to work to solve the American public's problem. Some people want their certain bills up at a certain time. We're just going to work through the agenda and get everything done.
What's your reaction to a report that President Trump could be indicted as early as this week?
I would not know why President Trump would be indicted. I'd hope the Democrats would stop playing politics. I know they're concerned about President Trump's presidency, his ability to run again, how strong he stands in the polls, beating Biden, but for them to continue to use the system against President Trump is wrong.
If these conservatives haven't said what they want, how do you work through this impasse?
You listen to them. You listen to them.
But are you listening and asking for them to put something on the table and make a request?
I don't know what you could put on the table. I just listen to people. Everybody's got a voice inside the conference. We'll listen and we'll work through it and come together.
because one thing they said is to renegotiate the agreement that you cut in January.
What can you renegotiate? What is this agreement? The thing I told the American public is what I talk to you every day about. We wanted to get back to 2022 levels. We also know that we got to pass a bill. So on non-defense, we're actually below that. For defense, we priced it up a little, and rightfully so, because the defense needs it, and also the veterans. The challenge here, though, you even have Republican senators who want to spend even more money on defense. So when you look at where the bill ended up, is in a very good place. And it's really kind of threading the needle, but to be able to get work requirements, to be able to get pay-go against the president, be able to pull back the money they wanted to use for IRS, the $1.4 billion this year, and get another $20 billion going into the future. To be able to change the structure of Washington. Think for one moment, and you've all covered it a long time. You have probably more knowledge than I do, but have you ever watched a negotiation like that, where a bill is not 1,000 pages, it's only 99? That it didn't come in the middle of the night, that everybody had 72 hours to read it, that people were kept abreast of what was going on, they had the knowledge of what was there. We were able to pull back the COVID money. We were able to get the rescissions, especially the $400 million that was going to China from the CDC. So there are a lot of victories there. And I just think as you let people talk and listen through, you'll be able to work through it.
What's your reaction to the
Why are you sending everyone
You
home
already
for? Why are you sending everybody home for the weekend? Does that show that conservatives have won here?
No, I think from a couple different. I think conservatives win every day. I'm a conservative. I think the American public is seeing how conservatives win every day. From a Parents' Bill of Rights, from HR 2, from we get our energy bill, from just be able to get the cuts that we just got, the largest cut in American history, and that's in the world, $2.1 trillion. Conservatives are winning, but more important, the American taxpayer was winning because we're eliminating that Washington waste that we find so much. Look, we're only in session till tomorrow. We're only having one vote tomorrow. So people aren't going home early, but people are going home, and we're going to have to make up our work next week. But the other thing, too, is we brought people back early last week, so it's kind of like those make-up fog days. And I know some members, there are some problems with the smog out there, and some airports people are not going to be able to get home. So as it progresses further, I'll let them be able to get home. I'd be happy to get with their family.
Will there be negotiations tomorrow and Friday?
Look, I'm gonna talk and listen to people throughout the night. My goal here is to try to work this out by the end of the night.
But do you really need to revisit the agreement in January? The January speakers
agreement.
Because Chip Roy suggested that you may have to relook at the negotiation that led to you becoming speaker. Is that part of the discussion that you've had?
You bring up all this stuff that I don't quite know about. Very clear, one more time, let me answer your question same way. I always said I'd fight to get to the 2020 levels, or the equivalent thereof, because we were very upset about the omnibus coming through. And so what's unique is we've lived up to every promise that we made to the American public even beforehand. We actually are even to be able to put into this provision, if you can't get all 12 bills across the floor, you get a 1% cut across. I'm trying to change Washington how it works. And that's the uniqueness. Now, we were able to get non-defense below 22 levels, right? We're spending less than we spent the year before. But we couldn't get it on the defense, and rightfully so, as the country sees that. If that makes people upset, okay. But 2/3 of the conference voted for it. Even when you have a Republican president, you don't even get to 2/3. So this is a major victory by the large cuts that we're able to have. People are upset. You got a 5-seat majority. People are upset about a lot of things, about whether their bill can come to the floor first or something else. And what you find when you get a small majority, people sometimes want to leverage different things. And I think we just listen and talk as a family with whatever we do.
So is there anything concrete people are upset about, or is this just a tantrum?
I don't know. I mean, people get upset every day. It's interesting. I do a lot of meetings in my office on this. So people come in with whatever bill's coming in the future and something they want in it if it's not in it. I've watched people really try to vote against something, not what's in the bill, but what's not in the bill. When you start thinking that way, nothing's going to get through. So I think what's very important is remember why you're here. Is it for yourself or is it for the people you represent? If you always put the American public first, we'll get this done. And remember, you've covered me a long time. And you love these moments in time. This is when you like to write. This is when you come back to your questions. And I think it might be helpful to me. Maybe you think we had too big a victory before and you don't want to underestimate us. This helps you lower it a little more, underestimate us a little more, and we'll come back next week and we'll be successful.
Mr. Speaker,
If 11 members were able to derail this vote yesterday, are you at all concerned about your speakership and motion to vacate?
No.
How about appropriations process, though? Congressman Winstrup, who is on the Appropriations Committee, expressed concerns that antics like this are able to slow down a messaging bill on gas stoves. How would that affect the 12 appropriations bills that you guys are going to try to pass later this summer?
You think Brad Winstrup's on
It's Womack.
appropriations?
I'm sorry, Womack. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
okay, so you quoted one congressman. Did you quote him
I'm
wrong?
sorry, Congressman Womack.
Okay, so tell me what you meant.
He said that he's
Steve
worried.
Womack is an appropriator.
Correct.
Yes.
I'm sorry. He said he's worried about the if antics like this can slow down the gas stoves bill. How will that affect the appropriations process,
Look,
passing 12 bills?
Appropriations is always difficult to pass. I've watched Schumer doesn't even like to do appropriation bill. That's why we ended up with an omni. That's why I was very clear even before I became speaker. I will not accept an omni. I will not put an omni on the floor. That's why you've watched in the debt ceiling negotiations that we put in that 1% cut across the board. The American public expects members of Congress to actually do the work. This is a thing we're supposed to do every single year, but they have failed time and again in Washington. I'm trying to change Washington, right? No 1,000-page bills, give people 72 hours to read it. We're making those changes, and when you make changes like that to Washington, you disrupt people. People get upset by that. But what we're trying to do is change the behavior so we can get there. And I believe at any time, from the first day we came in, we have a 5-seat majority. So anybody can disrupt any bill that we do. And people get elected from a lot of different places. So what's really been a place that's worked well, like you would come to me and you would talk about border security. Where here we had all these problems on the border. The Democrats would ignore it. And then you came to me, oh my God, you held that bill up from being marked up for 2 weeks. Yeah, you know why I did? So we could be in the room together and work out the difficulties that people had. But at the end of the day, everybody was able to come together. It's the same thing that's happening here. And that's what we'll actually be able to do.
On the appropriations bill again, the appropriators had met with you about whether you would stick to the caps in the debt deal or whether you might go under. Is there a resolution to that?
Well, remember what we have here. The caps are the limit of how high you can go. If I want to change the thinking in Washington, just because you're allowed to spend a certain amount of money, if you could do the job more efficient and more effective for less, why would you do that? These are hardworking taxpayers' money. So if we can write it to even lower levels, then we should do it in the House. I mean, the difference here is the House can pass a bill, the Senate can pass a bill, and we can go to conference and figure it out. If you don't pass the 12 bills, you have a 1% cut across. So I'm always encouraging the members, if they can find savings, if they could be creative, then do it. And I think they'll always look to that.
Mr.
So if
Speaker,
you don't know what they want,
Your team's been on the same page the last couple of days.
I'm sorry, what?
Do you believe your leadership team
Yes.
has been on the same page the last couple of days?
Yes.
Yourself, Liz, Grace, everyone?
Oh, yeah.
but if you don't know what they want, how are you gonna get out of this current state of paralysis?
Well, it's just a couple days. There's no deadline here. It's just like the same question you'd give me when the speaker race was on. I won't give up. I'll get through it, and we'll listen to them, and we'll figure out a solution. That's what productive people do. I'm not afraid, if I want to continue to change Washington for the better, I'm going to disrupt the thinking of how people have done things in the past. So I'm not going to get upset. I'm not going to get frustrated in the process. I know this job is not an easy job. I don't seek it because it's easy. I like the challenge. And you know what? I've got a challenge I knew from day one, with a small majority, with people of strong opinions, with people who are bright and articulate, people who understand how to use the media as well. So I will listen to them, I will respect them all, but at the end of the day, we've got to come together as one.
Mr. Speaker, you said it's your goal to get this figured out by tonight. Do you have meetings scheduled for later tonight with some of
People
those-
are meeting right now. Look, we're meeting all the time, listening, walking through, but it's not one thing, right? People all have different issues. It gets more personal about different things. I don't mean personal, but maybe something that they're working on or something else. And what happens is when 11 do one thing one day, there's a whole group of others that want to go do something else then. So it's bring you together, everybody calm down, and let's work through it.
Mr. Speaker? Why haven't you had these conversations before bringing votes to the floor? Like, why is there this impasse right now?
Okay,
Do you feel
okay, listen-
blindsided?
No, okay, listen to your question. You just asked, why don't I have these questions?
Conversations
Yeah.
with your members,
So do
with
you
your
think I
colleagues.
don't have conversations with my members?
So why would you bring it to the floor with?
Bring a rule to the floor?
Rule to the floor,
'Cause you
understanding
can't- 'cause
that.
you can't pass a bill unless you do a rule. So,
Well,
we
these-
have conversations every day, but I think if you go back and you listen to your question and watch what we do, you probably wouldn't ask the same
On a
question.
separate
Speaker,
note,
have you heard from other members from other parts of your conference who are frustrated that
Very
the
much.
right keeps being able to capture your attention and try to get concessions from you?
Look, my fear as a party, as a country, we're trying to help Americans have a choice that the government doesn't come in and tell you you can only have an electric stove. I've watched this battle. It's weird that you even have to have this. If we didn't have a Biden administration, we wouldn't even have this question. I watched, is it Jose, the famous chef that in D.C.?
Jose Andreas.
Yeah, isn't he amazing, man?
Yes.
Do you know he's been trying to put a new restaurant in Silicon Valley? And he had gone through, and then COVID hit, and he spent a lot of money on it. And then they told him he couldn't have a gas stove in the restaurant. He said he wouldn't open it. The city council had to go back. So this is happening across the country. And I do not believe those 11 really want to stand on the side of Biden and dictate to the American public what type of stove they can have. So I believe the freedom always wins out, but it does cause a problem with other people. It causes a problem across the country. I'm fearful that people in the Republican Party are going to get frustrated with them too. I don't want that to happen. So let's be calm. Let's keep our heads. Let's listen to everybody, and let's get to the root of the problem, right? Lots of times when people take actions like this, it might be something else they're concerned about. And you know what? I'm the speaker. I'm going to listen to him, and we're going to work it out all together as one.
We still want to try to time for Ray next week.
I still have to go to
Ray.
it.
Well, you can still, even though the FBI is giving more access to the oversight.
Okay,
committee
so
on that.
let me be very clear, and I've been clear all the way through. When we asked for this document, Ray said no. I called Ray on the phone, and I had a conversation with him. This is very important, but I also want you to understand that constitutionally, Congress has the power and the oversight of the FBI. You do not have the ability not to provide if there is this document. He then decided to provide the document, but only to the chairman and to the ranking member, and he said you had to come down to the FBI. He then said, well, I told him if he didn't provide the document first, we would hold him in contempt. By being ready to move contempt, he said he would apply. But that is not right. We watched Blinken do this same thing. oversight committee, every member should have a right to see it. Now, they could have to go to the SCIF to see it, and I told him he could redact what he needs to redact. We want to protect people in that nature. But he needs to show it to every Republican and every Democrat on the committee. If he is willing to do that, then there's not a need to have contempt. But if he doesn't follow through with that, then there would be a need for contempt. We don't want to play politics with this, but I want it very, very clear to Ray. Congress has the constitutional responsibility to oversee the FBI, and he does not have a right to withhold that. I know he was going to have a conversation with the chairman sometime tonight. When I talked to the chairman earlier, he had not called yet, but I'm hopeful Ray follows through and changes his position. And if he changes his position and provides it to everybody, I want to thank Chairman Comer for being strong and making sure that he's getting exactly what the full committee, Republicans and Democrats alike, have a responsibility for oversight. That's a question for the chairman.
What's your reaction? What's your reaction to?
Okay, wait. Let's be fair. Who has not asked a question? All right.
Thank you. I just want to ask, how confident are you right now in your ability to hold on to the speakership? Do you think you're going to maintain it for the rest of the time House Republicans have the authority?
Have I ever doubted? But you guys, I remember walking out, maybe the 4th vote. What are you going to do? I remember watching all what you guys would write. What in the 5th vote? What in the 10th vote? What in the 11th vote? One thing I know is I'm here for the American public. So I don't care what obstacle you put in front of me. I don't care what challenge you say. And you know what? I'm never giving up on all you either. I believe at the end of the time, when we get to the end of this term, you probably will never ask me that question again. You might give up on thinking we're going to fail. I'm going to turn you all around. I'm going to keep praying for all of you, so don't give up. You guys are going to improve, I promise.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.